See, this is my life. It always will be. There's nothing else. Just us. And the cameras. And those wonderful people out there in the dark.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Out There in the Dark. My name is Tom Alexander, and with me, as always, is Mr. Azed Majid. Hello.
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 Hi. Oh, sorry. I never know when I'm supposed to talk.
Sorry, should I have...
You're such a dominant master.
Thank you, Sub. Great.
That's very
You're my podcaster.
It's very telling that we're having this hierarchical masculine
It is. That's
thing
really...
here because, the movie we're going to talk about today is Ari Aster's new movie, Eddington, causing all kinds of stir out there. Mm-hmm. But, I think a lot of it does center around masculinity and, the loss of power, especially for the poor white man.
Poor white man.
Yeah. But, let's I guess, but do you want to just dive right in, or should we?
Yeah, let's just riff on it. I mean, to our listening audience, beware, spoilers.
Lots of spoilers.
We're also gonna sort of branch off a little bit to talk about Ari Aster and his short career thus far, with only 4 feature films.
I'm gonna talk about Mary Aster. Is that okay?
Oh yeah, Mary Aster's great.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we should do a whole episode about her.
How about Ed Asner? It's close.
Oh, that's a 2-parter.
Yeah,
for sure. Mary Tyler Moore showed a Lou Grant
to the best movie ever made that nobody's ever heard of, called The Girl Most Likely To, written by Joan Rivers, starring Stockard Channing.
Oh, wow.
I have it. I have a copy of it. I'll lend it to you. I actually seriously want to remake that movie. Anyway.
Okay.
Yes. I don't know. What else? If you want to talk about anything else you've seen before we get into this, or do you want to just get into?
Let's just get into it. We haven't seen much. I've seen some TV shows.
All right. Jeez, easy. Don't want to even say hello to me.
No,
okay,
not really.
All right. Well, Ari Aster. So we would say, I guess we say that most people know about Ari Aster from Hereditary.
Hereditary and Midsummer, two really strong horror films that have really struck a nerve with a lot of people.
Yeah, really kind of one of those guys in films who comes along and kind of changes the game, right? He's got his own style and all that, right? So,
well, his first 2 films are like, changed horror cinema. It's almost like there's been horror films before that, and now you've got this entire so-called genre of quote-unquote elevated horror,
right?
And I really, although that's a so-called genre, I hate that term, but but it's this. They've been around for a long time, but it really was a pretty radical, terrifying.
It's like
film.
Yeah. Oh, Hereditary.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And was a massive hit. I mean, critical acclaim.
Hit. Well, because it's also a really good movie. Like, I think it's like he's like, we'll get into this more, but like obviously those 2, Hereditary and Midsummer, are kind of they're horror. They're definitely more horror, right? But these last 2 that he's done, like this one, Eddington, and the one before that, Beau is Afraid, they seem to be moving into a new direction for him. Like, there's elements of horror in them, but in a very kind of muted way. And but there's, I think the thing that he's a very literary filmmaker. He's a very literary writer, and you really see that in the last 2 movies. Like they're almost like reading novels. Like, and sometimes even with excellent novels, you start them 4 or 5 times, right?
Yeah.
You just can't get into it. You can't. And then once you hit that point, it's like, this is the best book I've ever read.
You're in, and then I think with both films, there's a point where you start getting lost, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Much like a good book, where things start to shift, and then it comes into a wow finish.
Right.
I think both films succeed that way.
Yeah, I agree. So, well, I guess let's talk a little bit about Eddington, right? And one of the interesting reasons we wanted to do the show was, it's a movie that's getting odd reactions, in my opinion. Like, for example, what I heard was that at Cannes Film Festival, It got a huge, like, rousing, like, standing ovation.
Everything does.
But
it's either booed off the screen or it gets a 15-minute ovation.
Yeah. So, but then, like, oddly, like, the next day, like, apparently that after the screening, like, all these big filmmakers and people, they all went out for a celebratory, like, party, and everyone was going nuts. And, like, you know, these were people not just talking to Ari Aster, they were just talking amongst themselves, saying what a masterpiece this movie was. But then, like, the next day, a lot of people started to retract their initial enthusiasm. And I think it was because there's a fear of the subject matter, because it's about America, right? And America's continuing to unravel mentally, right? You know, and it's about the origins of that, because it's all about, takes place in the pandemic, right? You know, when the lockdown starts. Yeah, so I think it's fascinating to me just how many people dislike this movie.
But isn't there maybe a more psychological reason why they dislike it, a more personal reason? It can't just be because it's about America and they're freaked out about it.
What do you think the personal reason is?
Well, I think, and you and I have talked about this a little bit, that, you know, besides, one of the through lines with all of Ari Aster's films is a really dysfunctional family dynamic, particularly along an absent father or perhaps a domineering mother.
Right.
And I think in Eddington, you've got these two male figures. One who seems to be cuckolded and has a very attempting to have a very dominant authority. That's the Joaquin Phoenix character as the sheriff of the town.
Yeah, it's the Joe Cross. That's his name.
And then you've got Pedro Pascal, who's on the surface seems like the more benign figure.
He's definitely the sort of he's the centrist liberal elite. Yeah. Right. Like, again, he reminded me of Gavin Newsom, even though it's Pedro Pascal. But he's in that kind. He's slick. And you know, there's a really funny.
But there's a dark side to him.
Oh yeah, there's a dark side to him too. Like he's well. First of all, this is, you know, it's interesting because the mayor of this town is, you know, he's working with some much larger, you know, tech guys to bring in this giant, like, AI farm. Yeah, right.
Just going to use all this power.
Yeah, and yeah, so you're right. You have this duel between these two guys in the town, and then it turns out they have a history as well, right? Because the Joaquin Phoenix character's married to Emma Stone, Louise, who is very passive isn't the word, right? It's like she's barely there.
Yeah.
But interestingly, like, a lot of people said, "Oh, she's not given anything to do." It's like, what? I never understand that phrasing. Like, sometimes I guess, you know, maybe that's true, but this one I didn't find that at all. I mean, I thought she was a very haunting figure, as she's supposed to be. Like, this is a very damaged woman, right, and a very unhappy woman, and because it turns out,
and he spends his time trying to make her happy, which just makes his situation worse and worse.
Right, but it's clear that she's not. She's done. Like, you know, she's out. She's checked out, and she doesn't feel that way.
He doesn't see it.
No, he doesn't. And it's funny because when the whole backstory comes out between what happened with him and the Pedro Pascal character and the wife and her mother, it's very complicated. And the thing is, the way that Ari Aster does it, it's not on the surface. You have to kind of pay attention to kind of get most of the things that are off in the corner a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like the fact that there's this portrait. So it's the Emma Stone character and her mother. They live in a house with Joaquin Phoenix, right? In this kind of very modest house. And the mother is this crazed, like, QAnon style, you know, conspiracy theorist.
There's also this Harridan who harasses Phoenix.
Well,
constantly.
That's the emasculation you talked about, right? Like, he's a cuck. Like, he's been, you know, he basically, you're not a man. You know, you can't take care of your woman. You know, like, she says things like that to him. About,
and of course, Emma Stone lets her talk to her to her
Yeah,
husband like that.
exactly. And well, Emma Stone is almost mute.
Yeah.
You know, so and she makes these dolls, these weird dolls, right? But obviously, there's something arrested in her development, and that indicates something that's happened
Kind
to
of
her.
reminds me a little bit. I just thought of this right now. Reminds me a little bit of Toni Collette in Hereditary with the miniatures.
For sure.
You know.
Yeah. Although these ones, yeah,
they're not terrifying, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean these ones that she's doing in Eddington. I think you're right. It's the same. It's the same thing in a way, like the same psychological area, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's just that her dolls are not well done. Like they're okay. Like they're more like blobs. And
well, they're probably a way.
The Toni Collettes are amazing. They're detailed.
But
right?
Maybe that's the difference between their personalities. Maybe Emma Stone's character.
This is like
completely so damaged.
This is like fan fiction now, man. Come on, should write something.
We're going to ship them all.
Yeah, they all meet in one movie. And then the Midsummer people came in.
They all went vacationing in Sweden.
Yeah.
But
Beau paid for everything.
But I wonder if Emma Stone's character is so damaged and sees herself as so damaged that she creates these dolls to reflect her own psychology in the same way that I think Toni Collette creates these miniatures.
For sure.
As a way of controlling her surroundings, which are completely out of her control.
They're
being controlled by witchcraft.
Yeah, by that's a whole other thing. Yeah, headless witches too. But you know you're right. Like there's a kind of she's an interesting character in Eddington. That's the thing. Like just because characters aren't given kind of
like big scenes and
scenery chewing and all that. It's like, you know, people are like, oh, well, she didn't do anything. It's like, no, I thought the performance was extremely subtle, right? And same with I liked Austin Butler too, even though he has a kind of a small part. But his character was also really, you know, interesting.
Easy charm to just walk in and sweep her off her feet.
Yeah, because you feel charmed.
And he can't do anything. Right? Phoenix can't do anything because, he's like letting him into his house.
Well, just further masculine humiliation, right? Like here's this beautiful man, you know, this kind of confident man.
I mean, fuck, Elvis walks in. What are you going to do?
Yeah, well, and he looks more like Kurt Cobain in this one, right? So. But you know, he's also like this very, you know, he's the phallic figure. Like he's kind of like the new father because he's got that confidence, which is like really the confidence to lie to people.
He's not cocky.
No, he's not cocky because he's too smooth for that, right? But he's like really, he's the most dangerous one. Right, in many ways, because he's going to have an effect on millions.
Well, you
of people,
see that
right?
with his as an influencer.
Yeah,
it's one thing about Aster's films is that the supporting characters are so well drawn and so fascinating. You know, when you think about Midsummer, you know, you've got these four guys who bring Florence Pugh on their horrific vacation, and although they don't have a lot of scenes, their personality types are very defined.
Yeah,
know? And they're all interesting in their different ways.
Yeah, they all kind of have their own story in a sense, right? And it's true with this one too. Like, there's a lot of characters, side characters in Eddington as well. Like, there's the one cop who's black, right? And it's just a great scene where he's into this one girl, this cute teenage, like, you know, high school girl, and she's telling him though, like, you got to quit the police force because you're oppressed and whatever. And he's like, you're telling me, like, you know. So there's very funny scenes like that in Eddington. But Eddington, I found, you know, you're right. There's this kind of tension at the center of the film between this very patriarchal protectionist of the patriarch
on both sides.
And you have this sense of powerlessness and a loss of any authority, you know, because of the pandemic and because of the, it goes pandemic, then George Floyd, and then BLM riots, right? And you see the town get more and more influenced by all these events to the point where there's small riots and stuff, you know, and that even further alienates Joaquin Phoenix's character because he has no control at all. And then he loses his wife to Austin Butler's character. That's the final straw, right? And then he just goes, and then he just snaps, and he thinks, this is the other thing, like he kills Pedro Pascal, the spoiler, never mind. He kills him, he assassinates him by shooting him through his window at home, and he kills his son as well, who's in the house, like a teenager. And he also kills the homeless guy who starts the whole movie off, right? Yeah. And he goes on this killing spree, and you can see it's very meticulously planned in his head for how he's going to spin it, that he's going to blame it on the woke, right? On the woke crew, because he has them write like a la Manson, almost with like paint on the walls.
Yeah.
Like justice, peace, all these wokeisms, and so there's this. It's a very fascinating identification because you're with Joaquin Phoenix. He seems like a good guy in the beginning, like he seems all right, but as you go further and further in, you're like, this guy is a complete sociopath, right? Mm-hmm. Like he's a murderer, like a serial killer.
Yeah.
And you're with him, right? Like that's the thing. So that's another thing. It's like, I think Ari Aster is not talking so much about the politics involved. I think he's talking about the effects of the siloing. Mm-hmm. And the misinformation and all that. The effect of that is nobody can sort of talk to each other, mm-hmm. because everybody's reality is completely different.
Yeah,
right?
I think you're absolutely right, and that doesn't mean that the politics aren't there. They're not explicit. He's not that kind of a filmmaker. He's always starting with the personal and the psychological and the trauma. He's all of his dramas are very trauma based.
I read this guy who said, I read one article that said, really put it well, like really got to how Aster does this, right? So at the very beginning of the movie, so the mayor, Pedro Pascal, he owns a bar in the city as well, right? And there's this homeless guy who comes in and he's trying to kick him out, and then the first scene is between Joaquin, who's the sheriff, who gets called to get this guy out, and Pedro Pascal, and the dialogue is really fascinating in that scene. It kind of like, here I'll read it to you because this guy who wrote this article, his name is Chris. I don't have a full name.
You don't have a full name on the article?
Well, it's
what
his
is this,
blog,
Reddit
I
or
guess.
something?
He says, what's the problem? So he basically says, he comes over. The superficial context is that Ted, Pedro Pascal, and Joe Cross, Phoenix, don't like each other. That's why Cross initially isn't going to do anything about the homeless guy, right? But really the scene, he's saying, is kind of a tool to show us two people who won't agree on what's happening. Okay? So it shows how in a microcosm, that's really what's going to happen for the rest of the movie.
Because Pedro is like, he's disrupting my business, and Phoenix he says, how can he be disrupting your business if he's not even in the bar?
Right, and he said, I had to leave, and then he says, I had to lock the door to keep him outside, spend an hour like this. But then he says, he's blocking the entrance. Whose entrance? What are you even doing there? It's takeaway drinks only because it's pandemic, right? And he says, it's town council members. That's essential business, right? So he's using this policy now, right? Talk. Yeah. Well, you can't just call it essential business whenever you want. And he says, it's a city council meeting wherever the city council congregates. It's the mayor's office if I'm inside. And then he says, good, then you're open and you have a paying customer, right? Customer, he's aggressive, he needs to be locked up. And then he says, what are we supposed to do? Send him. He's in your streets. This is the interesting line. No, they're yours, Sheriff. They're yours to keep safe. And where's your mask? Right? It's interesting that there's this argument that is about the essential reality of the situation right in front of them. Yeah. Right? there are the ideological needs or dictates of each of them are
take precedence
are blocking the
Yeah,
reality
exactly.
of what's actually happening there, which is like, okay, this guy, you know, like everything's got to be, you know, questioned. Like, you know, basically he's saying you're a corrupt politician, you know, and he's saying to him like, oh, you know, I'm in charge here, you know, whatever. And then when he says, well, you take care of it, he goes, no, that's your job. You see what I mean? Like there's this kind of thing going back and forth.
A bit like the grocery store scene as well, when Phoenix enters without a mask.
Right.
He says, I can't breathe. Well, he's got asthma. He generally can't breathe.
Well, this is the interesting thing about his positions. I mean, people. I can see people might go like, "Well, oh, maybe Ari Aster is saying the right wing has a point." It's like, no, I don't think so.
No,
I think what he's doing is he's showing that, yeah, these things do come out of kind of like a reasonable, you know, sure, it's reasonable to say, listen, I have asthma. I don't want to wear the mask, right? Okay, maybe if you put it that way, right, and not talk about essential freedoms and, you know, how you're willing to let like hundreds of thousands of people die because you just don't want to wear a mask. There's a difference between those two conversations, right? Like, again,
it's a reflection of how, and we're talking about the politics of the film now, but it's about how, and this is true, I think, in society today, where we take our ideologies and we turn that into reality instead of looking at reality. Right. So I don't want to believe in global warming, so global warming doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist, right? And that's the thing. That's the very scary. That's the horror element of this movie. It really is, you know, because it's like, well, he's getting at something about how the very fabric of our everyday life is changing quickly, and it's turning us into these non-empathetic, non-communal beings, right? Like we're just too alienated now from everybody. Let's face it, we're watching a genocide happen live on TV every day, and nobody's stopping it.
Yeah,
that's the kind of world we live in.
And we use our competing ideologies to justify why we don't.
I know there's people out there who are justifying starvation of children. It's just hard to fathom, right?
But that's a theme that runs through Aster's work as well. The idea that our realities are completely masking a deeper thing that is completely changing our, you know, I'm not putting this well, but similarly in, I think Beau is Afraid.
Yeah.
Again, Joaquin Phoenix, giving it, by the way, an incredible performance. He is
Always.
constantly not able to communicate with the people around him what he needs. It's one of the things that makes that film fascinating but also frustrating. For me, it was like, just solve your shit, you know? And
the
he's
Beau is
constantly,
Afraid? Yeah.
Because the Beau character is constantly being like damaged by his surroundings and yet is so passive.
Right.
And why is he passive? Of course, like all of Aster's films, it's because of something their parents did.
Right. Oh, truer words were never spoken. You know, but I you know, I'm a big believer in that. I think, you know, yes, he's very Freudian filmmaker. I would say that there's such a strong kind of Oedipal mythical kind of quality to Aster's films because he employs sort of these archetypes, right? But these horrific ones, right? Like think of the ending of Eddington, right? Here you have this guy whose whole thing was to become a man, to kind of have power. You know, he was a sheriff. He wanted to have his authority. He wanted to be respected as an authority. Who, in the end, is a vegetable.
Yep.
Right? Completely paralyzed, right? And being looked after by his mother-in-law. His wife is off with now Austin Butler. So he's this completely emasculated, castrated
because
person.
he's being looked after by the woman who has been
berating him and basically egged him on to commit murder. Because she was the one who was saying, right? She was protecting her husband, right?
Yeah.
And there's a nurse, a male nurse, who's there because they have to put him in one of those slings in order to put him in bed. And, you know, they put him in the bed. Then the mother-in-law gets into bed next to him. Okay? And you're like, what the fuck?
And that's after he slaps Phoenix across the face. when he's having trouble getting him on the toilet.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Remember that?
And you see his dick. And
so
everything.
This whole thing is.
And you see his limp penis, and that's a very important shot because it is about. He's saying this is what I'm saying right here. This guy, useless dick, right? Sorry, I didn't mean to use your nickname. But that's exactly what it is. He's not,
and he's the mayor.
And he's still the mayor because now they can slip anything past him, right?
Because Pedro Pascal's been killed, so Phoenix is immediately.
But wait a minute,
mayor.
I didn't finish. It's the mother-in-law gets into the bed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he gets the.
And then the male nurse, who's looking after Joaquin Phoenix's character, gets into the bed too and starts making love with the mother-in-law next to paralyzed. Joaquin Phoenix. So it's like, okay, this is he's basically saying there's this sexual triangle between the infant, the father, and the mother. It's the most beautiful ending.
I don't know that he's. Do you really think he's a vegetable? I'm not so sure. I think maybe he's fairly.
He's not a vegetable per se, but he's completely paralyzed.
He's paralyzed. He can't.
He got stabbed in the brain.
No, I hate when that happens.
Yeah, that's not good. It's not a good day.
No, it's not a good day.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think he can speak.
But there's something going on behind his eyes.
Because, I think he's conscious. Yeah, he's consciously aware for sure. Like, which is the misery of the ending for him, right?
But really, of course, so he's being controlled by his Herod mother-in-law. But really, what controls the town is not the mayor, not a sheriff. It's big tech. Big tech, because big tech came in when all this chaos is happening and controlled everything. Just like in real life. Yeah,
now I want to talk a little bit about that big tech thing because I read this fascinating article that completely takes this whole thing apart, right? And so the name of the corporation in the movie is called Solid Gold Magikarp. Okay? Solid Gold Magikarp is a real thing. Okay? It's a thing. It's a reference to let me see if I got this straight. It's a reference to it's a phrase that scientists have figured out. It's a phrase that if you feed it into the algorithm of AI or something.
I'm going to feed it into ChatGPT right now.
You can. It will actually cause odd behavior from ChatGPT.
Solid
Gold Magic with a K and then ARP.
ARP?
Yeah. All one word. Solid Gold Magic ARP.
All right. Oh my God, my computer just exploded.
Okay. That's from all the porn, though.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
There's too much porn.
Yeah, well.
So the interesting thing about that is, so basically the magic, the solid gold Magikarp, which later Ishmael told me is the name, Magikarp, he said is the name of a Pokemon. But yeah, this thing. So
Pokemon rules the world?
No. But it's really interesting that he calls it that because if you think about it, what this phrase does is it throws a spanner in the works of a large language model, right? And so I think what he's getting at here is that this corporation is there to disrupt language or communication between people by making the communication incoherent.
Yeah,
that's what he's basically saying. He's saying all the response, like
all the. I never would have got that.
Yeah, I know, but
it's anything about this.
I know, but it's interesting. Like that's the ultimate. Yeah, the ultimate bad guy is that, right? And so in many ways, it's the Pedro Pascal's character is worse, right?
Well, Pedro wants big tech to come in.
Well, he's making the deal.
He's making the deal.
Yeah.
And again, going back to the idea that, this anti-vaxxer type conspiracy theorist subculture that is represented by Phoenix in his campaign and his crazy mother-in-law is kind of right. They're kind of right about something. And like you said, that doesn't mean that Aster agrees with them.
No.
He's just saying there's forces beyond our control that are controlling what we do.
Yeah, well, I think there are forces.
And in real life, let's face it, during the pandemic, during COVID, that's when these big tech companies, their value skyrocketed.
Oh, for sure.
And they started having more and more control over our behavior.
This is why I think this is why he's making this movie right now, right? Mm-hmm. It's not about, like, I read one review and it was really irritating. It's like, oh, this movie's like 3 years too late. It's like, what are you fucking talking about, man? Like, are you that shallow? Like, you can't understand what the relevant... Anyway, it doesn't matter. But it's like, okay, look, this is where it started and this is where we are.
Yeah.
Those things are related, right? What happened during the pandemic was, I don't think any of us have dealt with how traumatic a shift occurred for all of us in a matter of no time, right?
Yeah.
Like suddenly your whole life changed, right? And I think, now we're kind of like, okay, we're back to normal, but we're not, right? And I think that's what he's saying, right? He's saying there is no way around it. You have to talk to each other. You have to be able to have some common goals, some common morality. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, this is
what happens.
This is what's going to happen. And these tech feudal lords are going to just run our lives. We're going to be slaves.
Yeah,
right.
Because they want us to. They don't want us to communicate. They want to keep us in silos.
That's the whole point of this solid gold magic carp, right? That its job is to disrupt.
Are you sure that wasn't a K-Tel record in the 70s?
Could have been. It's Solid Gold was a show. I know that in the 80s. Yeah, Dionne Warwick. But yeah, I know. Like,
it's like she started it.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is also keeping aware. Like, AI is such a big part of what this movie is kind of trying to hint at, right? That there's a sense of things that take over our world quickly like that, right? And AI already has this quality of being above human. You know what I mean? It's like it's so fast and it's so better. But what this movie is getting at with this reference, I think especially, is this shit makes mistakes. Like, still, like, it's not perfect, right?
I was kind of side note. I was at a conference back in May, and there was a big presentation on AI by these AI people. And it was really eye-opening because on one hand, they were talking about how everybody needs to be using AI in their work every day. And it's really important and blah, blah, blah. But they were also very critical of the current applications of AI. And I thought that was interesting where they say you can use it as a tool, but you cannot rely on it. You cannot lean on it. Mm-hmm. You can try to use it to make your work better, but at the end of the day, it's your work. And we see that happening all the time. I was at Fan Expo this weekend, which is a big comic fanboy thing, and at a panel of comic book writers and artists, the topic of AI came up, and AI in the comic book world. Mm-hmm. And they said it does make us a little nervous, but what doesn't bother us is that we've got everyone sends stuff in electronically. So you're sending your work into a comic book company like Marvel to get a job or whatever.
Right.
And they've got ways of telling if it's AI or not. And if it's AI, they'll never talk to you again.
Well, okay. Well, this is a bigger conversation.
Yeah, this is a bigger conversation.
Because, I think that's going to be true for a while.
Yeah.
And then at some point, when these corporations realize they don't have to pay people, and people will still buy, like, you've heard about the Spotify thing, right? That was a big story a couple of weeks ago where...
I don't know.
So Spotify has started doing AI bands.
Right. Oh,
unbeknownst to people, really, right?
Right.
But there was this one country rock band or whatever that was getting millions of listens, and then when they looked into it, it's like this is not a real band. This is an AI band, right? And millions of listens. Okay, yeah. So there you go. It's not like people went because they were like, "Oh, this is an AI band. I'll go listen." They just like they like the music,
yeah,
right? So I think it's going to be. I think we always like to think we can tell the difference between.
What I mean is, it's not that the publishers can tell by looking at it. They've got software and they've got applications in their systems that will detect it.
Yeah, I know, but
that's what I mean.
I think.
But people are fooled, like I know a guy on Facebook who shared pictures of what? Bob Dylan, Bruce Springsteen, and Paul McCartney on a beach eating fish sandwiches and crying. I'm not kidding. He was like, wow, look at these guys. Look what they're doing. This is so amazing. And then every comment on his post was like, you're an idiot.
Right. Nice. Okay. Nice side talk here.
Point being that, what is the point?
I don't know.
Sorry, guys. I got sidetracked.
Right. I'll just read you this quote then from the New Yorker. Even though the guy was not, it was Justin Chang. He didn't love the movie, but he says this, and I think it's completely true. Joe is thoroughly emasculated, rejected, and abandoned by Louise, implicitly cuckolded by Ted, and in one gratuitous scene, dragged naked to a toilet. Don't ask why it's an Aster joint. And full frontal humiliation comes with the territory.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I think that's basically the central thing. But what's fascinating about it again is how he uses myth, right? It doesn't seem in any way like we're dealing with myth. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Which I have not seen yet.
Oh, yeah. But yes, that guy also does that. He uses kind of myths in this very interpreted way, like and
Yorgos Lanthimos.
Yeah, and I think that's the heaviness. Like that's why I think people. I don't think people are liking this movie as much because it does require. You have to really pay attention. Like again, you're not going to be fed lines like hey, this pandemic is making everybody go crazy or something like that. It's just not going to be spelled out.
Lanthimos is a very polarizing filmmaker as well. People have very visceral reactions to his films.
Yeah. Well,
so
anybody and same with Haneke, and I think there's a touch of that in Ari Aster as well. There's a kind of implication to the viewer, especially in this movie. Because of all the screens and all the relative closeness, proximity to our own lives, right? Mm-hmm. You can't help but think about your own experiences going through it, right? So,
yeah, I mean, it's like a recent history that we all went through a lot of what all those characters go through.
I still think we have yet to see all. Like, I think this was the first really, really great work of art to deal with the pandemic, right? I don't think we've seen the end of that. I think we're going to be seeing lots of art because it takes time for us to to process what happened. Like I think people went nuts. Like I think a lot of people just lost their marbles
during the pandemic.
Oh yeah.
So did I. Yeah.
Yeah. I was okay. I thought we did okay here. We had bad times for sure, like 2 years locked in your house, obviously, right? Yeah. But that's what I was saying. Everybody had some shifting moments.
Disaster for me, but I'm not going to get into that.
Well, yeah, you could start another podcast for that. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think despite what people say, or the critics are saying out there, I would really recommend people watch this one. Mm-hmm. And then let us know what you think.
I mean, like Aster's films. See all of his. He's only made 4 features, but see all of them because Beau's Afraid.
He's an important filmmaker.
He's an extremely important filmmaker. Beau's Afraid is probably my least favorite of his films, but there's no film like it. It's very fascinating. It's never boring, even though it's 3 hours long.
Yeah, same with Eddington. I did not find it 2.5 hours.
2.5, but no. That was constantly, bobbing and weaving all over the place, and it was always interesting.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything else? How's your relationship to the phallic right now? I mean, are you feeling phallic or more like limp and emasculated?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Flaccid.
I'm sorry about that.
Little flaccid.
Stop.
It's your fault.
Little and flaccid, I would say. You've got the
micro. And with that, we'll see you out there in the dark.
Mushroom dick.